Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Jeannine.Luby. And I cannot believe that we're already rolling through May. I say this a lot, but I just lately the weeks have been just rolling by. And last week you heard from a wonderful woman that I had only met for the first time when I talked to her on the podcast, Rashida Lovely, who is doing amazing things in Scranton, working on sustainable and affordable housing, working with young men of color and boys to help them succeed. She's doing fantastic stuff. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, please go back and listen. I am delighted to have my two guests today who you have heard from before on Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. We're working together on a wonderful project that's coming up in June, all about abundance and helping empower women with the right information and tools to succeed. So joining me this week, I have Megan Alpert of J and Trish Dickert-Nieves. And we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about what's coming up with this workshop, what the purpose is, and some things that, you can learn if you attend, or even if you don't attend, some things maybe you want to check out on your own. So good morning, Megan and Trish.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm so glad to have you both here. And I should say, I forgot to say at the beginning, I always like to say how I know people because I think it is so important for us to keep on connecting with people, to be curious, to want to learn more, to support one another. And Trish and Megan are two women I have met locally in Northeast PA that I love working with, and we've done things together. And I'm so happy to be partnering on this project as well. So we'll get started. Megan, as I mentioned, is the founder of Joy World Wealth Partners. It is in downtown Scranton. And Megan was on, I believe it was last year, talking about her business and just the philosophy of bringing joy to people, helping them understand their finances and taking an approach of joy. So let me start, Megan, by asking you not just about, so on a broader sense, let's remind people what your whole philosophy is and then what led to what's coming up, which is a workshop for women about abundance.
Yes, so Joy World Wealth Partners was founded almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in July. We are a full service wealth management firm. We really focus on empowering women, elevating and empowering women. And being at a large firm for 19 years, I just felt that women were not being served the way they needed to in the world. And one of our missions is, to educate and empower women. But when women achieve financial confidence, we know that financially families do better and communities do better. So really it's just making the world a better place. So that's definitely a part of our mission.
And I can vouch for the fact that I love your mission truly is about joy, the things that you do offer to the community. Recently for Mother's Day, you had flowers for people to come in and make a bouquet that was complimentary. And I mean, I went and got one, of course, for myself and for my mom. And it's so lovely to actually live the mission that you say you're doing. And we've partnered and you've allowed me to come in and do a comedy show fundraiser and to have that kind of joy in the atmosphere, in the building. That I think means a lot because we did talk about manifestation too. And I think when you do those sort of things, it creates a vibe for joy and positivity and success.
Absolutely. We really look at the whole person. And that's where this program and workshop in June came into play. So we really focus on the 5 pillars of wealth. So financial wealth, being the first one, physical wealth, time wealth, social wealth, and spiritual wealth. So we're looking at a really wide array of amazing leaders in the community and practitioners that all have something really special to bring because we really are trying to grow, develop, and cultivate a community. And, with community comes connection, and we can all live our best, most abundant lives and be, real with each other and grow together.
Yeah, and it really does. I mean, it benefits the individual, but the more that successful we are as individuals and connecting in the community, it really does make sense that it helps us to all prosper and create a beautiful space for everyone to succeed. With that, I'm going to ask Trish a question. So Trish Dickert-Nieves, I'm sorry, I totally went, Nieves, I'm sorry, Nieves. Trish and I have worked together a little bit before. So Trish has been out and about. I met Trish, I think because of, honestly, I think it was Kristen Martelli, who is another local great woman who does, massage work, and she does somatic work. And that's how I met Trish, with somatic movement, somatic embodiment. And Trish was also a guest a little over a year ago with Kristen talking about somatic movement. And so you are going to be on June 6th is when the workshop series kicks off, the Abundance series. So you're going to be there under the pillar or discussing. You're not going to be under a pillar because that would be kind of painful, but you're going to be helping to enforce or empower women through the financial pillar. So Megan will speak, but you're also going to speak, and it's we have the title of somatic money. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know we had this conversation a little bit before about somatic, what that means. It's the body, but can you give us a refresher about what that really means, and then how it connects to money for people or finances?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so happy to be back here too with you two amazing women because this is such an important topic. It's such an important topic for me. And the pairing with Megan's holistic point of view when it comes to money and how it really does infiltrate every aspect of our life. It's not just numbers on a page or money in the bank. It really affects our well-being and our health and wellness. And so as a somatic practitioner and a health coach, I really resonate with this messaging. So when I started to do somatic work, which is about how does something feel for you in your body, not the intellectualized, like, what do I think about it? Or more so even like culturally we often lean into what do I think I feel about it, right? That's how far removed we are from like how we are actually feeling. So I do a lot of somatic work, which essentially is allowing people the space and the time and the guidance to listen to how their body's responding and reacting to a certain subject, environment, topic, memory, what have you. So noticing if your body is experiencing any tension, any calm, relief, whatever it is that comes up for an individual. So when we're talking about money, as I just mentioned, it's complicated for a lot of people. But when we change our relationship to money about how we feel about it, how we think about it, it really allows us a sense of freedom in our body. It allows a sense of safety and security, right? That abundance allows us to feel a certain way in our body and ease, if you will. So that's how somatic money ties into, our overall well-being about not only how do we think about money, what our relationship is with money, but how does that feel? Is that the way I want to feel about money, or do I need to change something and shift something here?
Yeah, and you led a workshop recently that was Passion to Profit, and I was able to attend. And I loved that idea of, and you shared, I think that you had heard it, or you were referencing a podcast about the relationship with money, and if money was like a person to walk through the door, which I love that idea. Actually, I like applying that to other things besides money, but I love that idea to think about if it was a person. And you had said, if entering the room, what would you say? And I just love that idea because I say thanks to Megan and thanks to Emily Hickox of Budget Through Life. They have been, and then now seeing your presentation, helping me think about my relationship with money. And it really hasn't been the most positive. I find myself like when I would send out like an invoice for work, whether it's for my marketing work or like doing a presentation, I don't love admin type of things. And I would be like, oh, I would have this like, I have to do this now. And then I'm like, why am I saying that? This is the piece of paper that gets to the office that will send me a check, and that's what I want, right? And I found myself having a negative approach. So I'm trying to reframe that stuff. So being aware, I think, is key, and that's the first thing. But let me ask you, as far as the feeling, it's so funny that you said thinking about it, and there's also the aspect of we think about what we're supposed to feel, right? Because God knows social media is telling us that we're what we're supposed to feel and think about things. But like what you feel about stuff. Do you think that maybe I feel like it might be easier for some people to know how they feel because I'm someone who's more in my head, so I know what I think more than what I feel. I had taken this recently at the library, offered EFT. I think it's called Emotional Freedom Technique. It was like all about tapping, and they reference the idea of things coming up for you. And do you think sometimes for some of us who overthink that it might take just a little bit more practice, like anything takes practice
Absolutely.
to feel it?
Absolutely right. Yeah, it is a practice because we really have been conditioned, within our families, within social media, within our world, our work environment, that we really stuff and suppress how we're feeling because we have to get things done, right? So we just have to go through the day and get things done. So sometimes when I work with women, and they'll say, I didn't realize how exhausted I was until I stopped working. That's a very common thing that I hear with the women that I work with. And it's like, it's because you weren't mindful in the moment. You were, if you gave yourself a minute to slow down and rest and check in with your body at lunchtime every single day, you would realize, like, oh yeah, I need some energy. This isn't sustainable for me. And that's where we find burnout. So yes, it is. A lot of us have been conditioned and desensitized to how we are feeling. And quite honestly, that is our intuition. Our body has this innate intelligence that actually knows our environment, responds to our environment before we have the ability to intellectualize and decide how we're going to respond to it. So once you're connected with your mind and your body, you can kind of just have this ease and knowingness and this flow about things where you'll just know without even thinking about it that you need to do something or be somewhere or have this sense. And the example I always use is when you walk into a room, you can kind of feel, some people can feel the environment. Oh, this is a little awkward, or those people are just arguing, or are they talking about me, right? You kind of get a sense of like something's going on here. Like that's the felt sense. That's your body responding to like the environment or the energy, so to speak, without you having to get in your head. But then maybe you get in your head, right? Like making up the story about like what's happening and why you need to leave or not leave or what have you. But yes, it's right. We need more practice with this mindfulness and the somatic work to get into our body before we can, it's that's why we call it a practice, right? It's a somatic practice. We have to take baby steps and do it a little bit every day to really fine tune this sensing.
And I think that's probably something that could be said for anything that we're not already doing. I spoke recently to social workers about using humor and laughter to de-stress. Well, if we're not in the practice of appreciating that laughter or humor can be used for things that are challenging, then it's going to be maybe difficult at first, like how can I laugh at this? Or we do laugh and then go, oh, that we're not supposed to laugh at that, and it does take practice. I think I will need more than practice. Maybe I would need waterboarding and deprogramming because I do I live in my head. It's really, but, and then the other thing, and of course, this is me mocking where I'm at, but like with perimenopause, I feel a lot of things lately. I just don't know why I'm feeling them, but a lot in my stomach and a lot of stress. And I think that probably does come out a lot with things that, worry us, things that like get that feeling. And don't they say, like, I mean, for years it was like, go with your gut, like that whole thing of like I guess that's kind of like what your intuition or your
That's
own
right.
trusting yourself.
Trust your gut. Yep. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Would you say that, and I think I feel it, I'll say it for me anyway, part of it, so it's practice, but it's also trusting ourselves and what we're feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's part of, I think, this resistance that you're talking about, where some people aren't, it's scary to get out of your head because then you're not in control, right? So there's a lot of fear there of like, but wait, if I really surrender and give up my hypervigilance of like control of the situation or the people or what my instincts are saying, there's a vulnerability there that we need to lean into, and we're really not used to being able to do that kind of softness, right? We all have like this wall, and not necessarily a wall around us, but we have our guard up, we have some boundaries. And so I think that's where working with a practitioner is important in doing this work, whether it's in person or virtual or what have you, because you really do need somebody to hold that safe space for you, to continually remind you it's okay. And if it's not okay, that's also okay. Like if you're feeling like I can't go there in this moment, like that's okay. Take baby steps. So a lot of this is with breath work, maybe closing your eyes, because that takes away the sensory of your environment, right? So creating the environment's really important. What are the smells? What are the textures? What makes me feel safe? So my body could have the ability to feel, and I can kind of relax and put my guard down because I'm in this, what we call like a safe container. So that's part of this work too. And that's hard for us, especially as women who are professional women entrepreneurs and of service often to a lot of other people, to create the time and space to be able to do that practice. And we have to prioritize that. So that's even the first step. And that's why I think that Megan holding this space is so important, because it gives us an opportunity to say, I'm going to do that for myself. right? I'm going to make the time, I'm going to make the space, I'm going to show up, I'm going to bring my friend, whatever, and I'm going to do this for myself. And that's really the first step, is like prioritizing the time and space to be able to try it and access it and see what it's all about.
Yeah. And Megan, I'll ask you. So some might say, and we'll talk about what that's the first week, June 6th, and you're offering this and anyone can attend. They just need to register, and I'll have all that information in the show notes. Some might say, like, this is a different approach to money management or to like looking at things. And so maybe it wouldn't be for everyone. But what is it about this kind of approach that appeals to you and why you want to offer it to other women? Because you do believe it's valuable.
Yes, because I really believe that once your financial situation is in, good order, like you are one with your money, you love your money, because it's just like our relationship with ourselves and others. People want to put their money over here and then just be over here, but you really have to give it time and attention and nourishment and water it, because that's really how we become integrated with it. And like Trish said, the flow just becomes one, and we don't really block anything. It's just more of an abundance. So when you pour into one area of your life, usually the financial part, can be the one that gives us more opportunity. It gives us more choice to be able to, create what we're looking for our ideal day, our ideal week, our ideal life, because we are in control, whether we know or not. And I think that, looking at all these different pillars, like the time wealth, for example, having women carve out that hour or hour and 15 minutes just to, like Trish said, honor yourself and create space for yourself and join other like-minded women that are trying to establish what their abundant life looks like. And then social wealth, are we creating communities around us that are lifting us up and, we're getting nourished by, and instead of ones that are draining us and that are taking away from our energy and things of that nature. And our physical wealth is so important too, as Trish knows, being a holistic practitioner. I worked with Trish. She was the first coach I ever worked with, and it was like holistic living. And I thought it was going to be more about food and nutrition, but it was so much more than that, because I think that once we really get aligned with one area, it just pours over into all the other areas of life. And we're never in perfect balance. We're always like looking at one aspect more than the other. And like for me personally, I felt like I was in a pretty good alignment. And then, life happens. Last fall, something changed in my life, and I really let my physical wealth, by the wayside. I'm just focusing more on that now. I'm giving that more time, more attention, and then it just helps in other areas. So, and like the spiritual wealth, of course, is like what, our higher power, what we believe in, a force greater than ourselves. And that's what that golden thread that weaves it all together.
Yeah, and it is important. It can be a lot though, I'll say, especially as women, and they talk about that quiet. And I like what Trish said about closing your eyes to, like, to kind of block out some things that are overstimulating. I find myself, and I think that is a hard choice sometimes, but we do have to choose it, like putting the phone down, because it is overstimulation. I mean, I'm getting, and I don't know, really, I should probably be tested for something, but I feel like as I'm getting older, like there's so our world is so noisy. I'm personally getting really like overwhelmed many times. There's just noise everywhere. And I think we need to make the time and take the time for the quiet or the enriching, where it's not about the phone. It's not about, go, go, go. It's taking time to slow down. And this workshop will offer that opportunity. So let's talk about, so June 6th it starts, and then you're going to focus on the financial pillar. And that's, you'll speak, Megan, and Trish will talk about it, somatic money and the relationship you have with money. And then June 13th is the next week. It's 4 Fridays in a row, and it's around lunchtime. So it's 12:30. And then that will be time and social wealth we're going to focus on. And Rose, and I'm sorry, help me with Rose's last name.
Nogan.
What is it?
Nogan.
Nogan. Okay. So Rose is going to be approaching it. She has a background in the recovery space, but it's about creating those boundaries so that you have time for what's most important to you, and creating, things that maybe that stress us out, that create problems, just learning those boundaries and those things that can help us recapture the time for ourselves. So Rose is going to speak. I'm going to be in on that week, June 13th, more about the social wealth and connection through laughter and just ways to de-stress so that we can feel relaxed and able to approach the other things in our lives. And then June 20th, I believe we have, is it the physical well-being? and
Yes.
not just physical. There's another aspect,
Uh,
wellness
we're, we're,
overall.
we're, yes, we're focusing on vitality, movement, and well-being.
That's right.
Yes.
And that's Pat Barnes, who anyone in Scranton pretty much knows Pat, right? She
Yes,
does
she's
a lot of
amazing.
great, yeah, physical classes, a lot of times for women over 50, I believe, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. She really does inspire us just to like not have to be at a gym class or, at a certain place to work out. Like she was teaching, our group last year how to just do squats throughout the day or like wall sits, just different ways to strengthen parts of our body that just create longevity and living our best lives. And we also have Lisa Regao. She's amazing. She's a healthy lifestyle management person, also a mindfulness-based stress reduction practitioner. So she's going to actually talk about perimenopause, menopause, and all those fun things that women are embracing together.
Yeah, and I know Lisa said, focusing on things like nutrition and sleep and and also I know she had shared with me that she was going to try to dispel some myths that are out there, some misinformation and provide good information and good resources so that, she says a point that she makes that I 100% agree with, that we really do need to be our own health advocates. I am, some people are fortunate. They've got they're really happy with their doctors. I have not had the greatest experience lately trying to figure out reasons why I'm short of breath, different things like that. And I feel like you're trying to put together a puzzle. So you really do need to be your own health advocate, and being informed is so important for that. And I know she mentioned giving us good resources that we can then, maybe do a little bit more of a deep dive on our own. So then the last week, which is June 27th, which is the spiritual wealth.
Yes. Allison's been a friend of mine for a while, and she's a life coach. She talks about reclaiming wholeness, kind of getting back to like little Jeannine, little Trish, little Megan. Talking about the steward of soul, story, and wholeness, and supporting the journey of inner reclamation, soul truth, and then life aligned leadership. It sounds a little bit woo, but it really is something very special that I believe kind of weaves all these pillars together. And, we all have some sort of spirituality in our lives, and just believing that something greater than ourselves. And like you said, Jeannine, like the connection piece is really what I believe the disassociation in the world is caused by. So if we can create more of these like micro communities, I really believe we can all heal collectively. So it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful workshop, beautiful month honoring ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And it is held. Now, granted, we don't all have the same schedules, but a lot of people still do work, more or less a day kind of situation, so that this is lunchtime or when you might break for lunchtime, which is nice. 12:30, the program will be about an hour. Of course, if you have to leave, you can, no one's going to be blocking the door or anything like that, but come and enjoy as much as you can. And I'll put in the show notes to register with Joanna. And this is more or less a gift to the community, but there is an aspect where if people would like to, they're experiencing something, if they would like to give back, Megan, do you want to mention where they can
Yes,
actually donate?
Yes, we're all about the exchange of energy. So all these amazing practitioners are giving their gifts and talent and time, and hopefully will, create meaningful relationships and connections moving forward. But the WRC, We Respect and Care, formerly known as the Women's Resource Center, if you feel called or you're able to make a donation to that group.
Yeah, and they do wonderful work. I mean, anyone who's been in the region, the important things that they do for women and and families. Yeah, so that's a wonderful cause. Yeah. Um, as we start to wrap up here, Trish, is there anything I wanted to kind of just come back to you about? You've been doing what you do for a while now, and you've encountered enough women to know that this might be something new that women don't maybe make enough time for themselves. So just some inspiration, maybe, or idea that you can give to women why they would want to make some time for this. If it's something like, that's new, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. What would you say to someone who's like, I don't know what this somatic stuff is?
Right. Well, I think specifically like somatic, is about connecting with your body. And women have a tumultuous relationship with their body, right?
Yes.
We
Yes.
never really fully are given permission to accept it as it is in this moment. There's always something wrong, something we want to change, we're not feeling right. Or, of course, with my story, I had an autoimmune diagnosis. So as soon as that landed on me, that diagnosis, it was something's wrong with my body, right? And then you're carrying that around. So with somatic work, it really allows you the opportunity to show your body some gratitude, some acceptance, some of recognition of I'm listening to you, right? Because that's really the only way our body knows how to communicate with us is through symptoms. And we're so conditioned in our society, talking about the traditional medical field, is to we have a symptom and we take something to suppress it, instead of really listening to that symptom and saying, like, what is the symptom trying to tell me is happening, or telling me what I need, right? Do I need more nutrition? Do I need more exercise? Do I need to detox? Do I need to drink more water, right? Whatever it might be. So those are the two aspects where I come from, where why somatic is important for everyone, but important for women because of our relationship with our body and really honoring the signals, which are the symptoms of what is it that you want, body, right? Like just having this relationship where you can kind of bring it outside of yourself and speak to it in a way where it's okay, I hear you, instead of like just pushing through and saying, listen, I'm not going to honor your needs right now because I have to get this done. I have to work, I have to do what have you, right? And when it comes to money, we're very conditioned. We have what we call like limiting beliefs around money because of our childhood or our social conditioning of, we hear it often, money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that, right? So a lot of these conditioned stories or beliefs, we have them, in our adulthood, but then we never take the moment to kind of slow down and reflect back and say, do I still believe that? Or is that something I've just been believing so long to be true that it just becomes part of who I am versus let me reflect a little bit on why do I believe that? Do I still believe that? Can I change my mind? Am I ready to change my mind? And how does that feel in my body? Does that feel easy, freedom, relaxed? Or am I feeling tension, which is all okay, but just knowing where you're at around, is it time for me to maybe change my mind? Based on what my body's saying is the right time because of that signal it's giving me. And it's a very powerful practice. And the last thing I would say is it doesn't take a long time, right? You'd really be surprised. I mean, imagine sitting in silence for 5 minutes. That would feel like forever these days
Yeah.
because we're bombarded with so much noise, as you were saying, Jeannine. So taking 5 minutes in the morning, in the afternoon, before bed, to slow down, reflect, quiet your mind, listen to your body, just see if you get anything that comes up for you. And sometimes I say, what comes up in your body? And people are very different. They feel things differently, they hear things differently, they just have a knowingness of what their needs are. And so taking this time, this hour, that's a gift from Megan to the community, taking this hour where, you really, all you have to do is show up. And that's how I approach it for people too. It's like, if I tell people to sit down, close their eyes and breathe, and they're like, I'm not going there, that's okay. Like being there is what is the only thing that we're asking is to show up and just to be open and curious enough to listen and then maybe try, what we're doing. But the community piece is so important too, because our bodies too really want connection. Like we are not meant to be in isolation. We are not meant to be alone. And so laughter is a great example of that. When I hear someone laugh, it's contagious, right? My body
Yeah.
feels like, oh, something has to happen here. I also have to laugh. So there's really something important about being in community and a safe environment where you feel supported, where your body feels like, oh, I feel good and relaxed here. I'm not feeling tense and anxious, where I can sit back a little bit and listen in a safe way, where I'm not feeling pressured to be someone else or to do something I don't want to do.
Yeah. And I think, and we've talked about this recently, Trish, and I think I've had this conversation with many people about the whole, isolation and what's happening with that. And I think the pandemic, I read, was it 2 years ago, the Surgeon General was saying it's, a health issue, isolation, that it's actually like comparable to the damage of like smoking or diabetes because we need people. And it's unfortunate that somehow we've gotten into our heads like, oh, well, I don't trust people. I don't like people these days who think differently than me. I don't want to be around people, but we really do need it. And it is something that, and these are opportunities that we can take to just be there with people, but also be doing something for ourselves. And I think that is truly key. Let me close with this, Megan. I'll ask you, we are the three of us and the women who are involved in this, like we kind of all seem to vibe with this idea that as women, especially, it is good for like-minded people like to come together and to share their gifts and to encourage other women to come together. Why do you think it is so important that women do these kinds of connections and collaborations and offerings?
Yeah, because historically women, were really taught just to like take care of, their families and others before themselves. And it's just like the old adage of like put on your own oxygen mask on before you can take care of anybody else. Because if we're really, filling our own cups and if we're pouring from abundance and an overflow, it just becomes like there's no resentment, there's no expectations. Life just becomes, like you said, peace, joy, and ease. And of course, it doesn't happen overnight. It is a practice, it's a ritual. We have to kind of make it a priority for ourselves, like taking that time, like Trish said, even if it's 5 minutes in the morning with like meditation or prayer or reading or just being still. It could really set you up for such success. And then like that's really just the way to honor ourselves and take care of ourselves so we can really be vital and live our best lives and help others.
Yeah. And I love too. And I mean, I think sometimes this is also a choice. For years, there was this, and maybe it still kind of exists, the whole idea of women, the cat fight, the nonsense where it's like women can't work together. And there are, unfortunately, I have women in my own life who are like, oh, I'd rather work for men or work with men. And it's, this idea that women can't get along. To me, I don't get it at all, because I've been connecting with wonderful women for many years. And I'm seeking that out. I feel like now in my life more than ever. And I just think that it's just a unfortunate trope or whatever you want to say. And I don't believe it's true. And I think events like this are evidence that women not only can work well together, that we want to, and that it is a joyful thing that, we can help others with. I don't know. Trish, do you have any thoughts on that aspect of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about limiting beliefs, that's a limiting belief that sometimes we're like, it's just, somebody put it out there into the ether in the world that that's the way it was. And then, and of course, we can blame the algorithm too, right? We can blame the algorithms as well. But yeah, we are often pitted against one another. And that may have served a purpose in the patriarchal corporate world to pit women against each other. But now we're really reclaiming that power back, and we're empowering one another, and we're really honoring each other's gifts and creating space, like as you are, Jeannine, with your podcast, creating space, and Megan in this way to put other women on the stage, so to speak, and say, go ahead, tell my audience, tell my people, tell my fans what it is that you do, because you're such a gift to me. I want to share you with others in this way. And that's how we just continue to collaborate and network. And talking about community, you can really feel that tide is changing. So you could get a sense that that is starting to become the new belief, is that women work best in community and in collaboration when we're supporting one another. And it's a give and take. And it's when you can't show up today at your best, I got your back. I'll fill in the blanks, and and then that energy exchange that's so vital to to our success in life,
Yeah.
and professionally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Well, is there anything else? I will put in the show notes all the information about the workshop, June 6th through the 27th. And for folks, women in the area, you don't have to attend all four. You can attend one, but you're welcome to attend all if you like. It's just a matter of registering. Anything else that we didn't talk about that you're like, okay, I would be kicking myself if I didn't say this today? Either of you that you want to say something we didn't talk about?
I just think that like we're more alike than we even know. Like we're more similar than we are different. And I feel as though nobody is above anybody and no one is below. We're all on the same playing field. And I think if we all took that approach, the world would be a better place. And that's what we're trying to do here, to heal ourselves, which in turn, lets others have that space to heal themselves. And it just makes the world a more peaceful place.
True, absolutely. Trish, anything else that you wanted to say before we close?
I would echo what Megan said, is that I really feel the most the most vibrant, the most alive when I'm in community and in collaboration and being a student and a teacher. I mean, we all have so much to learn, but we also have so much to give and to teach, that when you're open to that, identity of being both in the same moment, it really opens up so much more possibility and so much more healing for each one of us.
Yeah, those are wonderful sentiments. I will add on to that this past weekend for folks who may or may not know. 20 years ago, excuse me, I started the Humor Therapy Fund as part of my graduate work at Marywood, and I worked with the Scranton Area Foundation. They hold this fund, so they hold the money, and it's what's called a donor advised fund. So I help raise money for it. Well, I shouldn't say I help. I'm the one who does raise money for it. They manage the money, and every year we get to disperse a grant. And the whole idea, the intention behind it was to spread healing, laughter, and humor throughout Northeast PA. So Saturday, I had the pleasure of seeing this year's grant recipient. It was the Abington Community Library, and they were doing this laughter lab. And with the money, the grant that was dispersed to them, they have these packs of books that are all about humor and comic books and laughter joke books for middle schoolers and high schoolers. But the other aspect of it was they held this improv workshop for teenagers and preteens. And my friends at Scranton Improv and Comedy led the workshop. And it was cool. Like, I did a really quick little, like, just a short laughter yoga warm up just to get them kind of loosened up. And then I stuck around to take photos and to watch. And it was so cool to see. We talked before about the noise and this overload of sensory. These kids, the phones were not anywhere around. Phones were put away. There was six students from participants from like 9 to about 14 or 15. Their phones were nowhere in sight. They were engaged. They were being fun. They were being playful. They were being creative, imaginative. The whole idea of improv, yes, and there are no bad ideas. We work together. It was really great to see. And it was a great reminder for me because I can be very rigid still at times, even though I've performed improv. It was just a reminder. It was luring me back in, but it was also fun to watch the young people with there are no bad ideas and supporting one another, because that's the whole point of yes and to seeing them connect, to get to be creative, to connect. And as adults we do also need that. And so it was just a nice reminder to watch. But I would say anyone listening, definitely take opportunities like these, take advantage of them, get out there in the community. If it's not this, there are many, and I won't get on my soapbox about the region. There are many things to do. There are many enriching activities like these to do. So I hope you will take advantage of what's coming up in June. And I want to thank Megan and Trish for your time today. I appreciate you sharing your gifts and sharing your time to talk about your gifts and what people can expect in June. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeannine. This is such a great podcast interview.
Oh, thank you very much. But thank you to my listeners as well. Be sure to check out the show notes. And when I do promote this episode, you'll have all the details you need to register. And, as I said, next week, Jennifer Estelle, it's another great conversation. She bought Endless Mountain Vineyard. So she's going to be, right now, it's the grapes, but she'll be working on opening up a tasting room in the coming years. But she also has the Be and Let Live project about adoption of pit bulls. And we talk a lot about animal welfare and a lot about what's happening right now, which is unfortunate. With the shelters, so many pets, animals in the shelters right now. So that's a good conversation next week for you to check out. And actually in June, I'm going to have Lisa Regau, who is one of the practitioners who will be presenting at the Abundance Workshop on the 20th. But Lisa and I are going to have a conversation, and you can bet your bippy that I'll be talking a lot about perimenopause and menopause. That's right up my alley. So yeah, we will have a really good conversation about that I think a lot of women will benefit from. As I close, I will just say, if you would like to help support conversations like this, I am always welcome to podcast sponsors. And I am so grateful for Emily Hickox of Budget Through Life, Gabby Lynn of Reinvented Threads, who have been so supportive. And if you're interested, reach out to me. It's cheaper than a coffee addiction. If you drink a coffee a day, that monthly cost is more than it costs to support this podcast. So on that note, I will just close by saying what I say every week. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.